Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Hi, welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. I'm Ian Stone.
And I'm Neil Munro. And today we are joined by a very special guest. So today we've got an interview and we are currently at Coventry City Council's main office.
Yeah, Friargate one.
Friargate one, beautiful office. Beautiful. Really stunning.
Yes, we're sitting in the lobby area, so there will be a bit of background noise. So, Yvette, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Yvette Liening and I'm the Senior Asbestos Officer for Coventry City Council. I've been in post here for now about 3.5 years, but I've been working within the asbestos industry for coming up to 13 years now.
Wow, so quite a long time.
Yeah, started off as an analyst and then surveying and doing the laboratory analysis.
So a kind of a fully rounded consultant that you've done basically every sort of activity within the consultancy side?
Yes, pretty much.
Was that in Coventry then?
Yeah, so after I got my first degree, I started a company that was called Stats.
Okay.
That are now sort of like part of RSK.
Yes.
Right.
And back in that day, you would sort of like get qualified in all the P-certs.
Yes,
so
definitely.
P401 to 404.
Yeah. That's kind of our background as well. That's what we did, which is not the case really now, is it?
No, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we?
Yes.
A lot of consultants now are just surveyors or just analysts.
Yes.
And I personally, this is what I said on the other podcast, I personally don't think that's great for the industry.
No. Because you could do, if you've got a surveyor, and also the guidance notes anyway, you've got a surveyor on site, do they need to do an air test or not? You may not fully know until you're undertaking the survey or you've completed the survey and it's like, well, yes, actually an air test would be needed now, or no, it wouldn't. Obviously, with some buildings, you can say, let's book an air test anyway, if it's clasp or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just having that knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely helps because the different scenarios, different situations, having that, like you say, that knowledge of, I don't know, doing bulks and being a surveyor, that kind of helps you decide on site whether you have got an issue or not. You don't have to wholly rely upon, well, I've got to take the results back and get them analysed and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and you've got a client saying, is it asbestos or not? You've got a really good idea of whether it is or not, haven't you? If you've got that sort of background.
Yes.
What was your favourite sort of element of it?
I think surveying. Yeah, especially when you get into some very interesting buildings. That was always quite a good challenge. And you're sort of like, I'm going to find them. I know I am, sort of thing. I actually did quite like doing the laboratory stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think I really did enjoy working for Stats because you could see a job through from start to finish.
Yeah.
So you'd liaise with the client, you'd book that job in, you'd go out and do the survey.
Yeah.
Sometimes as well, if you've got the time, you'd do the analysis as well yourself. And then write your report, which was bespoke. It was a bespoke report. Whereas nowadays it sounds really old. It does seem to be that it is all done sort of like on software systems, so you don't get the opportunity to sort of be a bit more bespoke with your recommendations. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, you don't get to add kind of inflection or more comments to kind of really explain what you mean and what is meant by the report.
Because sometimes it's quite quirky, some incidences, or, it could be, you've got to be more specific with it.
Yeah.
Not just remove or encapsulate. Yeah. And I think also as a surveyor, you're not really then learning what's actually required to remove that asbestos.
Yeah.
If you're just sort of inputting, well, okay, remove or manage, it's not really giving you that experience and knowledge.
No, I've described what exactly you should do with that material.
You're moving away then from consultancy, aren't you? You are then just a surveyor. You're not really a consultant anymore, because a consultant would be like, okay, you're my client, this is what I'm going to recommend. Yeah. You actually do with that material.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of my job, I suppose, as the Senior Asbestos Officer.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what do you think's driven that sort of change in the industry?
I think cost, time.
Yeah.
It's getting the reports that much quicker, isn't it? Yeah. And I think more competition maybe, because the duty to manage came in sort of like early 2000s. So you wouldn't have had as many companies, whereas now you've got a lot more surveying companies. You go online, we can do a survey for what, I don't know, 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah, I've seen some online, like, I don't know, we won't be beaten on price, survey from £79 and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, so it's driven by that. So then, you know, more reputable companies that have got that sort of staff with that knowledge of the consultancy, are kind of left competing with that almost. So you have to speed up the reporting process.
Yeah, efficiencies in places and stuff. Okay.
I mean, I personally probably wouldn't go for someone that's offering to do a survey for £50.
No.
It's still a bit like you're losing money, so, yeah.
But yeah, that's because you've got the knowledge behind that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Joe Public wouldn't have that knowledge, would they? So did you leave Stats and join Coventry, or was there...
No, from Stats I went to Warwickshire County Council.
Okay.
And I was there for 6 years as an in-house surveyor, just doing the management surveys.
Okay.
But again, they'd developed their own in-house asbestos online register, which was part of a compliance system anyway. So my job was to do the management surveys.
Yep.
Because the information was already sort of there in the system, but it was very limited. No suspect materials, no photos, no other information. So if you're trying to build a register and manage that from afar, almost from a central point, it's very difficult to do unless you've got lots of information. So it was doing the re-inspections, but at the same time filling in the gaps with photographs and, you know, the non-asbestos materials, which a surveyor would do. You're in a room, in a building, you've got to determine what is and what isn't. So.
And that's definitely the important bit. An asbestos survey just isn't about what asbestos is within the room. It's what's not asbestos that could be mistaken for asbestos, and job stoppers and things like that. And
definitely, you know, you'll get a phone call saying, "Oh, I can't proceed with this because there's some suspect-looking board," and it's like, "Thank you very much for stopping work."
Yeah,
I'd rather that than you just carry on and put your hammer through it. You know, but if we've got it listed down that it is actually Superlux, you know, and it is non-asbestos board, then, you know, we can already say to that client or that building, that property manager, you know, that's fine, you know, continue work.
Excellent. What sort of properties were they at Warwickshire?
Pretty much the same here. You know, it was schools, corporate buildings like offices and stuff, but then also libraries, children's centres, homes for the elderly, those sort of buildings.
Right, okay. Yeah, sort of council-owned buildings generally.
One of the hardest things as a local authority with schools, because schools have been given more autonomy, so they have all their own sort of like funding to spend as they please. But we're, as a local authority, still, not all the schools obviously with the academies, etc., but we're still their employer.
Yeah.
So it's finding that sort of like balance of like, okay, so if you don't want to use the council to help manage your asbestos or, you know, other property risk elements, it's still being able to audit them to make sure that they're doing that correctly.
Still compliant,
yes.
So, we're talking about asbestos. Why did you agree to sort of talk and come on this podcast, talk about asbestos? Because generally it is a taboo subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there anything sort of behind why you sort of wanted to promote asbestos or anything like that?
I just love talking about asbestos. That's really sad, isn't it? That's my anorak moment.
Well, I think all three of us are asbestos geeks.
If I go out with my children, they're sort of like, "Mum, just stop it, will you?" I'm like, "Look, that doesn't look in good condition." It's just like, "Mum, you're not at work now."
Yeah, definitely. That is one that everyone in the industry always says that, don't they? Everywhere they go, their partners or family members always pointing asbestos out to them, aren't we?
Well, we're contaminated by asbestos, essentially.
Because it's basically everywhere you go, you do see it, don't you? So, leading on from that, so what would you say is the worst thing you've ever seen, asbestos-wise?
Okay, I thought about this, and it's just like, it could be, you know, sort of like what type of asbestos, but I think it's more, like I said earlier, the attitude that's still prevalent, even after all the HSE advertisement and promotion of asbestos, and, you know, don't do it if you're not sure, like drilling into walls and stuff. So, I mean, I've had sort of like various incarnations, normally asbestos related, but I have been a health and safety officer as well.
Okay.
And I remember providing training, and it was for a housing authority, and they had their own in-house workforce. And I think there was one guy in particular that so of course you've got your wealth of photographs, etc., etc. And there's quite a well-known photograph where there's brand new plumbing pipes that have been soldered on, and it's all loose crystalline. Loose fill in the floorboards.
Yeah.
Obviously, work has stopped, but you can.
Yes, I know
the contamination that must have been in that area, and I believe that was someone's home.
Right.
Or I was leading on to that in the training session, and this one guy was sort of like, that wouldn't stop me working. And I at first thought he was joking, and he was like, no, if I'm self-employed, that's money, and I'm like, really? You're being serious about that?
Yeah.
What about if that's someone's home and that's them with their family, their children? What about your work colleague? What about that on your clothing, taking it home to your family?
Exactly.
It's not a broken floor tile. It's, sort of like massive...
Raw blue asbestos.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Just sitting there.
asbestos
Yes.
fibre.
Which is going to
loose
be
and friable.
so much in the atmosphere around you. And you carry on. And I think it's that attitude. And then when you have the sort of like, you do asbestos awareness training, you might have people that are closer to retirement. They're like, well, I'm still alive, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, done it all my life.
Yeah, I'll smash a hole in it. She's like, what about your 18-year-old apprentice that stood next to you?
Yes.
Do you not have any concern about their well-being?
I think that is a fantastic answer. I really, really do. Yeah, because when we kind of wrote the questions, we were thinking of along the lines of, well, what's the worst thing? Of kind of
Worst bit of asbestos.
Yeah, but you've taken that question and turned it on its head, and I think that's a really good answer. And that's something that we come across, and like you say, asbestos awareness courses, things like that. There's always somebody that says, well, that was all dealt with in the 70s, or, well, I'm all right, I'm still here. But you're right, it's kind of that attitude. It's
all a big fuss over nothing. And I think the thing with asbestos, it's because of the latency period and the fact that you can't taste it, you can't see it.
Yeah.
If you can see it, then you really are contaminated if you're seeing that amount of dust in the immediate atmosphere. Because you don't have that immediate response like you would with like an acid spill or something like that. People get quite complacent.
Yeah, I know, I was all right.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's like, so the asbestos industry, it's licensed, such as the explosives industry, the nuclear industry. If they go wrong, then it's like instant. And I think there's a lot more caution around that. Because, like you say, the latency could be for years. Just because people aren't getting hit straight away with an issue, they just kind of become complacent. And it's a sad state of affairs because, like I say, it's licensed in the same category as those, which is crackers.
I don't feel that the HC do spend enough money on advertising and promoting the fact that the dangers associated with asbestos, really.
No.
Compared to, if you look at some of the campaigns of recent times, like GDPR was a government, released regulation change, and everyone was talking about that. Weren't they? It was GDPR, can't have my name or address anymore. It's it was a big fuss, wasn't it?
It was, and I mean, GDPR and data and all the rest of it, yes, it's important, but if your name and address gets shared, nobody's dead at the end of the day, whereas asbestos gone wrong, people can die from it, and that's the...
and there's still so much of it still... within properties. I know that people ask me about my job and it's like, but that was banned. And I was like, no, when you sort of look how much raw tonnage was imported into the UK, and then that, of course, then gets put into materials, so that's sort of like even more. It's just like, no, there's still a lot out there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Lots of new people that I meet always ask me, like, what do you do? And when you explain it, you just go, well...
Isn't that a 60s thing?
Surely you'll be out of business next year.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no,
isn't that an industrial disease from the 1950s almost?
Yeah. No, great. So leading off of that, has there been a strangest asbestos thing?
Very, very recently. So here within Coventry City Centre, so within the council ourselves, we have different teams, and I will sort of liaise with teams whenever they need my assistance or advice. Okay. So we have a commercial team that deal a lot with the commercial centre. Obviously, it's being revamped, so they had an R&D survey of some of the buildings that were erected, I think, in the 1960s, and they've got marble. So there's sheet marble sort of on the fascia, and within one of those, there's a natural vein of Christ.
Wow.
Which I've never come across. And I think also the company where they were analysing it as well, I said, I bet everyone went into that laboratory to have a look at that, because I've never seen that before.
Yes, I remember you sending me a picture.
So natural vein of it, and it's just like, so that's quite unusual.
That's really unusual, definitely.
There is quite a lot of those types of buildings in Coventry, isn't there?
It's kind of like a green marble. So, it's obviously mined like that, and there you go, you've got a natural vein of it.
Wow, I wonder what happened to that piece.
Yeah.
Is it still there?
It is at the moment, because they haven't done the work to it. But I had to send out an email, a memo, sort of basically to all the commercial and any sort of planning project officers as well. Like, by the way, like, before you do any work, this may not be picked up. You could have an R&D survey, and because there's so many of these fascia panels, it might not be picked up because it's not going to be in everyone.
No.
So it would be really non-homogenous. So it's just like, okay, bear that in mind.
Find. Really cracking find.
Yeah, good spot.
Yeah.
So that's about whoever got that one. Yeah. Always look out for the unexpected, isn't it? That's the key to asbestos surveying, isn't it?
No, it is.
Always expect the unexpected, isn't it, with asbestos? We still get surprised today.
Yes.
And finding, surveyors come back and seen this, and we're like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Or it's where it's been applied as well. You know, it's sort of like, why would you think of looking for it there?
Yeah.
No, it's definitely, you have to look everywhere for it.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of doing an asbestos survey, it is looking every nook and cranny.
Quite a few years ago when I was surveying, I mean, we were doing sort of, I think it was a school, you know, like the old corrugated roof blocks, Nissen huts. There we go.
Nissen huts,
Got there eventually. I think there was a toilet block in there, and for some reason, I was kind of like, okay, just check under the sink. And there was like this filler, just sort of like went around the sink unit at the base.
Right.
And that came back positive for Christ's time.
Really?
Okay.
And I remember the surveyor was with why did you look under there? And I was like, I don't know. Just, you know, you do. You just kind of have a quick look everywhere, sort of thing, when you're in a room.
You reckon how much it's for then?
No idea. I think
a
they
bit
just
of a
had...
sealant or something.
Maybe.
Mixed it in, give a bit more strength around the seal, maybe. Don't know.
But yeah, so random...
Yeah.
Just random applications of it is what they've got on site or in their van, isn't it?
The bit that always surprises me, but you see it every time you find it, you pop a windowsill and then the chippies used AIB packers to level it out. But what's always foxed me is why do they use asbestos insulated board and not wood when primarily that's what they're meant to be using? I've always kind of...
Packers are always a pain, aren't they? You know?
Packers are a nightmare, yeah.
Especially in clasp buildings and stuff, and obviously you've got quite a lot of experience in clasp, haven't you?
Especially around this area,
Yes.
That's another thing. I mean, obviously that kicked off with the HSC, when was that, 2005, 2006, after that school in Wales.
Yeah.
So Coventry City Council, I was working for Stats at the time, but they got a lot of foam sealing done, so all the columns were sealed, but inside the ceiling void, they were fire retardant, foam sealed, etc. That was the HSE's advice on how to deal with that. So when I was working for Warwickshire County Council, I do remember going into one school ceiling void and all foam sealed up, lovely. But literally sort of like, I don't know, half a metre away, there's a really poor condition AIB packer just under an L-shaped bracket for the window infill panel. And it's a serious case of not my job, isn't it, really? Because so that's been paid for, that's a job that's been done to sort of like, you know, try and alleviate that or control that potential issue, and someone's gone into all these columns, sealed it, and like right next to them there's raw AIB anyway. So it's just like, at some point, do you not sort of say, supervisor, what are we doing with this? At least let the client know.
So just for listeners, explanation about class buildings, they are like system buildings, aren't they? Sort of steel portal frames, usually concrete slabs, sometimes concrete shells, aren't they? And then heavily used with asbestos, so cladding on the beams, ceilings, packers,
they're kind of large-scale prefab type buildings where they were put together piece by piece to the same standard, and that's what the clasp was. It was the standard of construction.
Yeah, I think it was originally developed in Hertfordshire, wasn't it? I think they were the first local authority to develop the clasp.
Yeah.
And then other local authorities sort of picked up and then developed other schemes because there are other...
Scholar and all sorts of different
places. More public-looking buildings, aren't they? Which have got no roof. They're always flat roofs, aren't they?
And of course, that was the import of asbestos was reaching its peak at the time they were being built. So
it kind of fueled their construction, wasn't it? Okay, so what's the best thing you've ever seen with regards to asbestos, i.e. management or asbestos types or anything like that? What would you say is not a bit...
I don't know, actually.
Standout moment, would you say, or...
What I'm going to use for that one is when I was working at Warwickshire County Council, this could get me brownie points with my old boss there.
Yeah.
I'd go on different sort of seminars and stuff. And I don't think they do it anymore, but I think it used to be based in Nottingham. They would do like a day sort of like asbestos in schools seminars. So I'd sort of go along to those, a bit of networking, but also getting information from other schools, other local authorities.
Managing.
Yeah. And I remember sort of like coming back and, you know, sort of going back to my boss and saying, actually, the system that you guys have developed in-house is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, compared to what I've seen.
Kind of eye-opener of, wow, I can't believe the other guys are doing this.
I mean, the system isn't without its fault because it was like in its infancy stages then anyway. But it's just like, actually, what you're developing here is pretty good for a compliance management system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there should be more, you know, good ones on the out there, really.
Definitely.
Do councils share knowledge across the country, would you say? Is there any sort of...
Not personally for me, no.
So there's no sort of like government-led information sharing or anything like that?
No.
So
that's such a shame.
Every council's left to their own devices?
Yeah, I mean, around here they were sort of like trying to sort of like go in with Solihull and... I think Warwickshire, I think they were sort of wanting to have a big, not super council, but
I suppose that's when like the larger frameworks get put together and stuff like that.
And of course, we have to share with local fire emergency services, rather. That information has to be shared. But
it's sort of like there's no government back sort of this is how you do it, and this is Coventry's doing this.
I mean, asbestos in schools probably was like that a bit, where you could do information sharing or idea sharing. Who's doing what. No,
best practices and stuff
that's
like
really
that.
good. No, I've not really seen any of that.
That was my kind of view on it as well. I was involved in the Asbestos in Schools campaign and stuff, and it always surprised me, the people that I met from different parts of the country. Like you say, there was no information sharing. There was no kind of...
We're doing this.
Kind of a standout...
We should do this.
A standout, perfect kind of school that then everybody else can follow and copy. But no, it never happened.
Maybe that's something to start, just sort of like, I mean, it's networking, isn't it? It's like, have it informal, bit of a get-together, some presentations, like, who's doing what.
Best practices, this work for us, case studies, sharing information, really, and just trying to help people, really. Yeah, that does surprise me.
I think that goes back to, like, the taboo subject as well.
No
one likes to talk about it. No,
we've got a problem.
No one wants to admit. No, exactly that.
Or perhaps they're a bit worried that they might not be managing it correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I said that quietly.
Yeah.
No, it is absolutely right. And it's kind of the thing that we face as a company. Obviously, we help people manage their asbestos, and trying to get people to actually say, yes, we've done a good job, because by saying that, they're kind of admitting, well, I had a problem before. And people don't like saying that, do they?
But that's how you learn, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Near misses. I mean, again, I've worked for a local authority, it was housing, and they sort of got a health and safety officer, and they wanted specifically someone with asbestos background because they had been given a improvement notice.
Right.
And the head of that housing department was very keen that wasn't going to happen again.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, it's the systems that you're using. They might have their own issues. They might, it's difficult then to sort of like give that information out, to make that information available easily, to update that information. So I do see that as well, that could be improvements on compliance systems. Basically.
Yeah. Okay, great. So it leads us on to the golden question. So it's kind of, this question forms the purpose of this podcast, and it's, what does asbestos management mean to you?
Asbestos management means to me,
it's a big question.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I could be sort of like conceited, couldn't I? It's like my wage check. It's keeping people safe. One, we've got a set of regulations that we have to abide by, which are sort of like overarched completely by the Health and Safety at Work Act.
Yeah.
It's keeping people safe systems of work. So asbestos management is having a system that's comprehensive enough, but at the same time easy to use and easy to access, because it's the grounds people, the people that are managing. Working for a local authority will have lots of premises managers that have partial responsibility.
Yep.
So they could have sort of like contractors come on. So they need to be showing them the asbestos information. But how is that asbestos information recorded? How has it been recorded over time? Are they being given like the old management survey? So it's this sort of like input that I've had with this council where it's just like, it's all well and good just giving that document over back in 2006, 2007. But since then, you would have had removals, R&D surveys that might flag more asbestos. So it's having that comprehensive register, which is still easy to access and use for premises managers, but also maintenance employees. Yeah,
not very much knowledge about asbestos or how to read reports and stuff like that.
All they want is like, okay, I'm in this room right now. Where is the asbestos in this room? So it's just sort of cutting to that basically, and then making sure it's being managed and everyone sort of is aware of where the asbestos is in their properties.
Yeah, great. No, that's a great answer. Thank you. So, is there anything you'd like to change regarding asbestos management or regulation or
the industry as a whole?
Is there anything that sort of grates you think is wrong or broken?
I think we were touching upon it earlier when now you sort of like have these surveying companies where they have limited expertise because I think they've just jumped onto the bandwagon. I think also the housing authority probably instigated that a bit where it's like, we can do a house for £50. So then you've got surveyors that are just rushing around that may not have so much experience or knowledge. But then if they're just doing housing, then there's only so much type of asbestos that you're going to find there.
Absolutely,
But I think, having the consultancy side of it back, having these knowledgeable surveyors
experts, Yeah, it is a shame. It's kind of everything is driven by the client at the end of the day, and unfortunately, the industry has been led by, like you said, definitely councils and tenders driving the price down. Yeah, it has a knock-on effect.
Yeah, and when you're driving the price down, you're never going to get quality.
No.
It's literally drive the price down, you're going to drive the quality down. Yeah, I've seen that across other industries as well.
Yes.
And it's the same with us, but ours kind of has more knock-on effect. It's not just, I don't know, fitting a bad kitchen or something like that. Again, it kind of goes back to, all right, a bad job's happened, but nobody's died. Whereas if you get bad advice or a bad job in our industry, that's what it can lead on to. Yeah.
No, I mean, I've seen, even now, some of the surveys I've had done, it's like, you know, so a boiler room in a clasp, it comes back with just 2 areas of insulation debris, high level, where pipe sleeve, that type of thing. And even then I've had to query the report because it's automated. The unit of measurement was 1. So I had to go back and say, one what?
1 what, yeah.
You know, can you be a bit more specific here, please? Because I need to then know how I need to remediate this.
Yeah.
Is it notifiable, or can it be done under the more short duration, still controlled conditions? But if we're just dealing with like 1 centimetre squared of some insulation debris to the wall, then obviously we don't need to...
Yeah, it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Definitely.
So I'd booked the work in with a licensed removal company, and I turned up on site that morning just to sort of, you know, walk around, make sure everyone knows what they're doing. Their manager was there, and he did sort of say, "Can we have a look in this boiler room?" And it was everywhere. And you even had like bare areas on the wall where a pipe had been removed at some point with the debris down the side. So it's just like, so a surveyor has been in here, undertaken a survey and missed all of this. So that same company came back, and out of 25 samples, 19 returned positive.
Wow. Perhaps they meant 1 boiler room in there.
Yes, maybe one.
1.
Yes. So it's that sort of information. So it's having that sort of like knowledge. I don't know if you can really blame software for that, though. No. In, you know, where you're a bit limited with, you know, your units of measurement or what your recommendations would be, or just the fact that that was just a very poor survey.
Yeah.
So that annoys me, because it's just within the contract I do specify that we have surveyors that have got 2 years experience.
Yeah.
You know, because I know that sounds a bit harsh, but I just...
Yeah, need a level of confidence.
Yes.
Exactly. You need a level of confidence, level of experience, and with what we do, a lot of stuff you only pick up over time.
Yeah, definitely. I think 2 years is a good benchmark.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I can't be checking every survey we have done just to make sure that something like that doesn't occur again, because that is putting people potentially at risk.
Yeah, no.
You know, if that had come back negative, we could have then had other contractors go in and undertake works and then start exposing them.
Yeah, definitely. Great, okay. So what's the one bit of advice you'd like to give someone about asbestos?
Mine will always be, because I used to do the asbestos awareness training, so if you're not sure, don't do it.
Yes.
At any point, if you're not sure what you're going to be drilling into, disturbing, sort of removing, just stop work and don't do it. I think this is coming from schools and doing asbestos awareness training for site service officers, maintenance employees. Sometimes the feedback I'd get is like, you know, they're kind of given stuff to do over the summer holidays, but maybe not given all the information that they need from a risk assessment point of view. And they've been unsure, but then maybe not felt that they could sort of approach their immediate boss. So I've just said, look, if you're ever unsure, don't do it, because you could be exposing yourself and others to asbestos material.
What's your view on asbestos awareness training, like as in the delivery of it?
Again, I think because you can get it online, and I have done. I did my P402 refresher online. It was the worst training I've ever seen.
Really?
It was awful. Considering it's a P402 refresher, just like I think that should be classroom based, because it's like, oh, if I haven't taken a core sample for a long time, I want to just go over that again, this type of thing. And I found the questions very sort of dubious. I think that's fine for asbestos awareness training once you've had the original classroom training.
So online for a refresher for awareness, you'd say is fine?
Only for the old category A. I don't think it's referred to as category A, B or C anymore, is it? I don't think so. Asbestos awareness training. But also I think you should be able to tailor it. I know that, again, the guidance states that you've got to discuss all these things, but I do like it when you tailor that training to your audience, because otherwise you're going to get people switching off. You know, they need to know what they need to know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a gas fitter, you know, probably never going to touch any floor tiles or something like that. Yeah, it's definitely having it geared to to their type of work.
But also, we'll have head teachers that are premises managers, and what they need to know is what their responsibilities are as a site manager.
Yeah.
Yes, let's have the introduction to asbestos, but it's like, this is asbestos. We know all about asbestos, and it's a carcinogenic. So this is what we're now going to discuss is the asbestos management plan and the systems that are in place, that you have to abide by. So we're not having any incidents or...
Yeah.
So, having it tailored more like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't know if asbestos awareness training needs to be sort of like 4 hours long for maintenance staff. I'm not sure. Yeah,
I know what you mean. It's kind of like the when you go in to talk about the regulations and all the rest of it, the properties of asbestos and all the rest of it, it's kind of
glazing over it.
Yeah, it's kind of OTT. It's kind of asbestos. It's a mineral that was put into building materials. It can cause X, Y, Z, and this is where you need to find it.
Yes.
Or what it looks like. Like you say, that's the important bit for their job role.
And what to do if something does happen.
Yes.
Emergency procedures probably...
Yeah, you're a big advocate for that, aren't you?
Because that's quite vague as well in itself. And it's just like, if anything, in that sort of training with SSO maintenance employees, you could actually sort of like, right, okay, we're going to actually show you what is the best thing to do if you think you've been potentially contaminated at source.
Yes.
If you've got it on your clothes, this sort of thing, because that sort of training isn't provided, and it's that sort of training that would be more handy than sort of like, learning about all the different regulations that are there, which, maintenance employees at that point are kind of switching off.
And like you say, when you take that out of the classroom as well and put that online on some slides and just click through, if you've got that question that pops into your head, you haven't even got that ability to ask that question, to kind of delve so you can make sure you understood what is being taught. You haven't even got that ability. Yeah.
No, so I think sometimes it can just be too rigid, and then, of course, you get people switching off from health and safety. This is what I see in this sort of like arena anyway. It's like, health and safety gone mad. How many times have we heard that? And this is where the worst thing you've seen, the attitude towards it. Maybe, it could be helped by having sort of asbestos awareness training that is more tailored to that group of individuals. So they're not kind of switching off, going, oh, here we go again, I've got to get on one of these courses. It's, tick box.
I mean, because I've been told to be...
and
I've got nothing beneficial. I've done it before.
The most benefit I'm getting from today is a cup of tea and some biscuits. If you're lucky,
So, it's just providing the training then in such a way where they are switched on. They are then genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Because they're benefiting from it. They're getting something from it.
Great. Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's sort of the end of our questions.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Really good interview. Thank you for your time.
No, you're welcome.
Really good answers. Kind of, you've come at a really different kind of answer in the way that I think got my or Neil would have, which is great.
Got a simple background for that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, thank you very much, Yvette, for your time. I hope you guys have enjoyed the podcast. Remember, asbestos first, not last.